Hello and welcome to Keep Hope Alive. We have a great show for you today. I got Mr. Shawn Hamill here with us, and he is the author Without a Compass. And we're going to literally dive into his whole career and how he got there. So, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on Keep Hope Alive. And it looks like a nice sunny day where you are. I see the beautiful glow coming in on you. So, but really quick, Shawn, before we get started, I got a quick question for you.
Okay.
How many weddings have you been to, let's say in the past 20 years?
I'm gonna speculate that it's probably been about 15 to 20 weddings.
Wow, it sounds like you might be in the industry somehow, but that's cool. I mean, so I want to go into our first sponsor. They're called lifeonrecord.com. And I have another question. So let's say you're at a wedding, you're going into the ceremony part. Usually there's something to sign to let the bride and groom know you were there. What are you signing?
I would be signing the guest book, but I usually get my wife to do it because I'm awkward at signing the right thing and saying the right thing. But yeah, the guest book is definitely
All
what I'm
right.
thinking
Yes.
of.
Yeah, so what that's correct. So what Life on Record is, instead of that guest book, they bring out a vintage rotary phone. So your guests can go up to the phone, pick it up, and be like, "Congratulations, you two, we're so happy for you. You make a cute couple." And then the next person picks up the phone and leaves a message too. It's about time you put a ring on her finger. She's a catch, whatever the message may be. And, I always use weddings, but this can go for any event. So, right next to the phone, they put out a QR code too. So, if you're in line going, oh, this is a long line, you can take out your personal cell phone and scan the QR code and just do the message right over your phone too. So, that's great. Now, I call this the gift of voice. So, all these messages come in and you have a choice. You can have it burned on a 12-inch vinyl record or a keepsake speaker, which is really cool. So it could be like a year later, you're sitting back, supposed to be eating that anniversary cake piece, right? And then you can pop in and hear all your friends and family wishing you well. Now, their plans start now. Mark my words, you get the phone number for a year, and their plans start at $99, which is a steal of a deal. I love it. And I always say for the wedding part, make sure to call right in before the year anniversary too, and just say, you know what? Happy anniversary, guys. We're
Hmm.
here calling you so you get more messages and stuff and make them fun and creative. But whatever you do, have fun with this new concept. To find out more information about them, go to www.lifeonrecord.com. All right. Well, I know we were talking about water early, and we're both kind of like fighting of deep water, but I keep saying, let's dive in.
Yeah.
So, who is Shawn Hamill?
So Shawn Hamill today is a lot different than the Shawn Hamill of when my story first started, or I guess as a teen growing up in my formative years. Um, Back then, I was saying that I was going to live a simple life, and I was going to sell T-shirts on the beach. Was the phrase I used to always use, and really, what I was talking about I was just gonna live life by my way, my rules. And fast forward, a few years, and I went to college, and I always call it the go to school, then get a job, work 9 to 5 to 65. And I got trapped in that whole loop that society throws us into, where, you get out of school, you're staring life in the face, and you're going, okay, what am I going to be when I grow up, so to speak? And I completely forgot about this dream I had of just living a simple life. And all of a sudden, long story short, within the space of about 6 or 7 months, I went from being this dreamer self that was going to live a really simple, carefree life to having a child on the way and getting married, and I got really serious, and I completely forgot. In my book, I talk about the three personas, and that they're the dreamer self, the responsible self, and then the head shaker. And my dreamer self completely disappeared, and I just became this responsible self that felt like I had to get, a job, and I had to become responsible. I had to become a provider. I had to do all these things that society teaches you to do, and all of a sudden I felt like I was on a freight train and I couldn't stop it, right? And next thing you know, I was rising up through the corporate world, and I had these fancy titles, and I was traveling all the time. I was doing about 70 to 100 nights a year in a hotel room. I had a wife at home that I really loved and I really missed a lot, and kids that I loved and missed. And I remember being on a plane and thinking to myself, what am I doing? Is this the life that I dreamt of? I mean, it was taking care of me financially, and it was giving me rewards that way. But really, what meant most to me in life was quality time, and quality time wasn't spent alone in a hotel room. It wasn't spent on an airplane all the time, or spent, traveling through airports all the time. And so I went through this kind of rediscovery, I guess. And, it was a serious questioning of what really matters most in life. And so then, you
Mm.
know, I, as I went through that, I remember seeing, we were in a holding pattern over Florida. We were coming into Tampa Bay, and our flight was delayed getting out of Toronto. And so as a result, they had to slot us into a spot to get into the airport. And so we were in a holding pattern for about a half an hour, I think it was. And we did
Mhm.
about 3 or 4 loops around Tampa Bay, the Bay Area. And I remember looking down and seeing all these boats floating around. And it was like, I grew up in the summer times, I would get my little day sailor and I would go and sail lakes all day long. And all of a sudden now I'm questioning life, and if I'm really doing what matters most to me. And I'm seeing these boats floating around below me, and people are, living on these boats. And all of a sudden it put me through this reflection on that's what I dreamt of when I was a kid and a teen, and what I used to always tell my dad that I was going to do when I grew up. And it used to drive him crazy because he was such a straight-laced man. And you know it seems so metaphorical, but at the same time the timing was so perfect. And so that's what the book is all about, is discovery we went through. We ended up, eventually I ended up quitting the corporate world, and long story short, we went sailing. And so we went sailing for about 12 months, and we realized that life that I dreamt of. And we went a bunch of adventures beyond that. But that kind of brings me up to now, as to who is Shawn Hamill.
Oh, wow. So a whole year on a boat. So where did you start and where did you end up?
So it's actually kind of funny. We had a boat when I finally did quit the corporate world. We had
Mhm.
a boat up in north of Toronto, and my son had just graduated from high school, and he didn't know what he wanted to be in life. And the last thing I wanted to do is see him make a rash decision and fall into the wrong spot. So I said to him, I said, okay, well, we're going to go sailing. And I said, this is going to be your first year of college, is you're going to go sailing with us, and you're going to get life experience instead of, going to the wrong program in college, or whatever you're going to do. He actually was very reluctant at first. I had to convince him, and I thought, what kid that age would, but he was exactly what, like many of us do, is he thought he had to just jump in and realize what he had to become right away, like society teaches us, right?
Yeah.
And so long story short, he eventually came around, and he said he was going to bring his buddy with him. So the boat we had was too small. So we said, okay, well, we'll sell that boat and then we'll get a bigger boat. and we shopped around for a while, and we had a timeline. So we said that it had to be by the fall of 2014, and we knew that if we set a timeline, then we would have to live to that timeline. But all of a sudden the walls were closing in. The dates are, getting closer. We had two properties, and we wanted to sell at least one. We wanted to sell that boat so we could get another boat, and we're going through
Mm.
all this, and we're getting closer and closer to our deadline. And it got to a point where we said, if it doesn't happen by this day, then that's it. We're going to have to cancel and do it another year. And it was the Thursday of that. The deadline was a Saturday, and it was the Thursday of that week. And all of a sudden, bang, 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 we sold two properties and the boat, all pretty much in within 24 hours of each other. So
Oh,
now we went
wow.
from having a house, having an investment property, having a boat, to having nowhere to live within a month and a half. And so, long story short, we ended up renting an RV. We asked, we knew that when we were done, when we found the boat, we were going to have to get the RV back to Toronto. So we asked my parents and my wife's parents if they would be interested in coming with us so that they could take the RV back to Toronto. And both parents agreed to do it. So there was me, my wife, my son, our two Alaskan Malamute dogs, which were, 60 and 90 pounds, and then four sets of parents, my mom, dad, my wife's mom and dad. So seven people and two Alaskan Malamutes living in a 30-foot
For a
RV.
year on
No,
a boat?
for the 2 weeks. When we went, what we did
Oh,
is
okay. I was
we
like, "Whoa, that's tight net."
yeah, no. We loaded all of the stuff we needed to go boating with into the back of the RV, and then we loaded the seven people and two dogs in and said, okay, we'll go down to Annapolis, Maryland and find a boat. And
Mhm.
so we remember when we went across the border, the border guard he was asking us what we're doing. And as soon as I told him that we were going to go sailing, his face lit up. He had tons of questions. And then he came around and looked inside the RV, saw all the people, and the two dogs were sitting right there. And he walked back around and very quietly just handed me all of our passports and said, good luck. Right? It was like he was astonished that we were trying to do this with that many people in the boat. We ended up living in the RV for about 2 weeks. We found a boat within a week or so. The boat needed some renovations, but as soon as we took possession of the boat, my wife and I both moved on to the boat to create some space in the RV. And yeah, after another week, we said goodbye to the parents. They took the RV back to Toronto, and then my wife and my son and myself and the dogs, got on the boat and we started sailing south.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the dogs were I was at the lake yesterday and just sitting there. It was so peaceful. And I told my friend, I go, these boats pulling in, I go, I just like the sound of the water hitting the boat because it's like a slosh. I go, I could probably really relax to that. But just being there in nature. And I bet that was very soul searching for all of y'all, but also your mind is probably creating all of these new ideas too of what you want to accomplish in life. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing is there's no clearer way to think than when you're sitting on a boat in a quiet anchorage away from society. And yeah, like you say, the boat's lapping against, or the water is lapping against the side of the boat. And it's mind blowing how clear your mind can become in that
So
moment.
wait, did you have there's no cell service, right? So was there no technology on your trip?
Yeah, generally we weren't very long without cell service. So when we sailed, there's the body of water called the Intercoastal Waterway. So the Intercoastal Waterway was designed back in the 1800s to create a safe passage north-south along the US East Coast, so that if there was
Mhm.
storms on the Atlantic, ships could still carry goods safely
Yeah.
inland, right? And so, yeah, so we generally always had, you know, self-service. There were times I remember there was one place we were like 20 minutes south of Myrtle Beach, but we were in this anchorage that was, have you ever had that moment when it's so quiet you can hear your ears ringing? You
Yeah.
know, there's nothing else. And we had an anchorage like that. And every once in a while, we were in a flight path to Myrtle Beach. So every once in a while, a plane would go over our heads and it would remind us that society was near us. But
Yeah.
in that moment, you would have never guessed that we were anywhere close to society. And, you know, there was moments like that where we didn't have cell service and it was refreshing. But
Oh,
generally
wow.
speaking, that was the beauty of it is we were close to society, but we could always escape society.
Yeah. So how many storms did you hit?
Actually, we went down all the way to the Florida Keys, and we were on our way back up before we hit our first storm. And you know, before that, we were always careful. We would be tucked in someplace if there was a storm coming. But yeah, on that day we got complacent. Long story short, we had gone around to the west coast of Florida, and there's a water body or a waterway called the Okeechobee Waterway that goes right across the middle of Florida. And the one
Mhm.
hassle with the Okeechobee Waterway is there's a train bridge that only rises up to 49 feet, and our mast was 52 feet. So
Oh.
if you know geometry, there's not an easy way to get under that bridge. So we had to actually get a guy named Billy the Tipper who came and put water barrels on the side of our boat and filled the water bottle barrels up until the boat to point where the boat actually tips over enough. So now it gets underneath of that bridge. Billy was a really difficult guy to get a hold of. And so I was very stressed out about whether he was actually going to show up that day to do it because we were stuck in the middle of nowhere between the a
Mhm.
lock wall and the bridge.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of supplies. You know, I think we only had about 2 days left of beer, and for sailors, that's panic time. Um, but
I
yeah,
was
we
gonna ask you about groceries. I mean, you're important to probably go and see some sights, right, along the way. So
yeah,
able to go to a restaurant and everything and get more groceries. And I know you had to it takes gas, right?
yeah,
In the boat.
diesel.
Yeah, so you had to
Yeah.
fill up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it took a lot of planning. You know, and at that spot I'm talking about, we had two Alaska Malamutes, and they never learned to relieve themselves on the boat, which, you know, on the deck, that's what sailors often do, is if they can't get to
Yeah.
shore, the dogs have to learn to do that. They never learned that. And here we were in a waterway that was known to have alligators in it, right? And so I remember there was a boat ramp
Mhm.
in the little area that we were stuck in. So my son had to take the dogs over to the boat ramp in our inflatable dinghy, and he just pushed the boat against the boat ramp, let the dogs jump out. I said, "Stay in the boat, and if an alligator does come, then get the dogs back in." And he said, "But don't get out of the boat." And so that's kind of the decisions we were faced with in that moment, right? But yes, so
Yeah.
Billy the Tipper did come. He got us tipped over enough that we got under that bridge. And after that, we were just so relieved that, this obstacle that was in our way is now out of our way. And it was a beautiful day. And we just let our guard down, right?
Yeah.
And we get to the end of this waterway and we get back to the intercoastal waterway. And we had about an hour left and 2 hours left to get to our destination for that night. And all of a sudden, a big storm dropped right on top of us. And I panicked. I'm sitting there and I'm barking orders to my wife and to my son, get this, find that. And we're trying to figure out where there's a safe spot around us. And up until then, we always tracked where we were. We always knew exactly what was around us and so on. We let our guard down and we didn't have any of that information. And so all of a sudden we had to figure all this out. And it was our first storm. And we couldn't even see the front of the boat. It was raining that hard, right?
Oh, wow.
And And then all of a sudden, when you start to think rationally again, then you start to think practical solutions. And I realized that the GPS system that I had right in front of me showed me where I was relative to the edges of the waterway. It showed me where the bridges were. The only thing I couldn't see is if there was other boats out there around me. So we just slowed right down to the point where if we happen to bump into anything, it was going to be pretty much inconsequential. Just kept enough speed so that we could keep the weather from overtaking us and driving us into something, and then we just
Yeah.
rode it out until the storm stopped, right? And but
Yep. Yeah. I was I was like, where do they put the bathrooms on the boats? I was telling my friend that yesterday because, I mean, when you're just at a lake, not the ocean, you don't. Well, everybody seems like in Texas they have a big boat, it's like, but I was like, my friend, she goes, oh, they just go in the lake. I was like, oh, typical bathroom then. That's
no,
kind
we
of
had
gross.
our boat was a three-bedroom, two bathrooms, so we were good there.
Oh, wow. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was like, I want to see this picture of the boat all of a sudden. So, what kind of like, I mean, you've traveled so far, you had to see probably sharks. What other things did you see along the way?
I, I remember distinctly the first time that we saw a dolphin, and my wife loves dolphins.
Oh,
Leanne is my wife, and dolphins just they make her day. We were in Beaufort, North Carolina, and we were just rounding a corner. Had just gone underneath the bridge, and if we had gone straight, we would have gone out to the ocean. We rounded the corner to follow the intercoastal waterway, and there was a dolphin right there. And
oh,
the glow, the excitement, the giddiness on my wife's face, my wife's reaction made the whole trip worthwhile. Just to see her get that excited about anything was just, it lit up my world. And, even
yay.
we got to the Florida Keys, we had a pod of dolphins that were following with us, and the dogs used to always chase around the boat to try and go to wherever the dolphins were. It's still that many miles after we saw our first dolphin, it was still just so fun to see the dolphins. And then the other
Oh,
thing that occurs to me is when we were coming back north, we were out on the Atlantic, and we were about probably 4 miles out from shore, and I just caught out of the corner of my eye a small whale. I saw it
whale.
just as it
Okay.
was, yeah, it was breaching, and so I just saw its back and then its tail flap up up in the air.
Wow.
It was probably close enough that if I had noticed it as soon as it did it, I probably could have reached over the side of the boat and touched it. It was that close. So on the one
Wow.
hand, it could have been dangerous, but it wasn't. It didn't turn out that way. And yeah, it was just amazing to have something that big and powerful and be that close to you.
That is cool. You see, my thing is sea turtles. I would want to see so many sea turtles.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen many since then, but we didn't see any on that trip.
wow. Okay. They all going with the current. Maybe they're just all underwater. I don't know.
Yeah,
I am so fascinated with them. And then tortoises, I've been following on Facebook because in my life, I feel like I want a tortoise as a pet. But I had nowhere to keep it, and I was like, "Oh, man," but they are the coolest, and they're like they live so long, Nadine. I go, "I know I would have to write it in my will who wants it," and they probably don't want it.
yeah.
So
I was snorkeling in Mexico when we did our RV trip, and I
Mhm.
had my wife's niece snorkeling with me, and I remember her tapping me in the shoulder and pointing for me to turn around. And I turned around, and within 4 feet of me was a huge sea turtle. From its top of its head to the bottom of its legs, it was probably almost as tall as me, and it was just swimming up
Wow.
behind me. And it was something that I look back at now and think, why wasn't I scared? But it was just so tranquil in the moment, right? And just no threat
Yeah.
at all. It was amazing.
See, I think I'd be you don't like deep water. But yeah, I'd be too scared to snorkel. But I'm a photographer and I've always wanted to do pictures underwater. And I'm like, okay, not in the ocean. I think the closest thing I would do is a pool with dogs. Like, you throw the ball right over me, and when the dog jumps for the ball, when they hit the water, their face smiles. Like, it's the
Oh
coolest
yeah.
thing. I was like, "That is as far as I'll go." But I feel like I've always when I'm at the aquarium, I love taking pictures of jellyfish. I'm just like, they're so pretty. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to see that in real life. And then I'll probably have a panic attack right underwater, seeing anything. And I'm like, yeah, let's leave that to the professionals, you know? So, yeah. But definitely. Just really quick, I wanted to jump into another sponsor commercial if we have a moment. So I don't know if you ever heard of Snap Bands.
I actually have. I was listening to your podcast and I heard about them and I
Oh,
think they're awesome.
yay! So everybody, let's see. I'm gonna try to do this better. My last one, I couldn't get it going, but this one says hope, and on the back of it, it has the elastic band. So we live in this world that is, yes, a very stressful place, and with work, school, relationships, even health issues. And the nightly news, there's anxiety every day. So negative thoughts can keep popping into our head over and over again. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Nobody likes me. So if you ever have these type of thoughts, you're not alone. More than 40 million Americans are diagnosed with the anxiety disorder. Anxieties, worries, and fears can stop from finding inner peace and achieving your true potential. You deserve your best life. Now, where this comes in, these bracelets, they will help reduce anxiety, control OCD, and calm stress. And I'm going to throw PTSD because I have medical PTSD. So I'm always using mine to like, hey, now each one of these snap bands, they are a cognitive behavioral therapy CBT tool based on proven brain neuroscience. And the way they work is amazing. So snap bands looks like a stylish piece of jewelry on your wrist, but the unique design actually hides the elastic, which sits right here on the inner wrist, and a pressure point to the brain's nervous system. So when you give this a light tug, you feel very soft vibrations on your inner wrist. And the physical sensation will help your brain to resolve one emergency at a time. So these are great because they have mantra words on it. Like I showed you, mine says hope, but they have believe and blessing, dream, fearless, hope, love, and peace. And now they have a new one. Faith. And the only way you get faith with the band is they have a promo code on their website. You have to put KHA. Keep hope alive. And then you get that one. Now, all these, with the mantra word, they will reset your positive mental focus. So I can say, I believe in myself, or I'm a blessing. I am fearless. I will always have hope. Faith is all about it. Whatever the mantra word is, you put that in your head and you focus and you bring it out. So, these bands come in all different colors: red, green, brown, beige. You can have it more corporatey if you're going to wear them. And they're awesome. So, the biggest thing I use mine for really quick is when I go in the hospital and they have to do an IV, which I'm even going in Thursday for another surgery. But they always miss first and second time. I'm like, "It's okay, but I will use my band," and I have to use it before because there's no jewelry going into a surgery, but I'm praying so hard for whoever has to find a vein, and if it blows, which I hear a lot, that sounds bad, but I will get this big dark bruise all over my arm, and then I have to hear people go, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "Oh, that was an IV." And then I even had one person that was stating, "Oh, you can use that against me." And I never really thought of that, but I was like, I'm not going to do that either. So, no, these prayers, the medical PTSD is from other stuff, but I'm always having to breathe and let my anxiety calm down. Now, with a portion of these bands, they donate all leading sales to mental health organizations so you can snap out of the stigma. So I want you to go visit them at www.snapbands.com. And I'm going to spell it really quick. They spell it SNAPPBANDZ.com. And then their whole thing is we gotta snap out of that, use the mantra words, have fun with it. So, well, let's get right back with you because this is a journey. I want to know, so you're on this trip, and when did you decide, "Hey, I'm gonna write a book?"
I think the biggest thing is I had tons of people that were coming up to me and saying, "I wish I could do what you guys are doing." Right? So it was 3 or 4 years that we went from adventure to adventure to adventure, and people were sort of living vicariously through us, and it really kind of hurt me, I guess, when people were saying, "I wish I could do what you were doing." That in the lead in that you just when you're talking about the snap bands, it's a great lead in because they say you go from when you're stressed, you go if you don't deal with the stress, then eventually leads to anxiety, and if you don't lead to deal with the anxiety, it leads to depression. Right now, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but I've got two kids that have ADD and ADHD, and so I've been exposed to it. And my first wife had
Mhm.
some serious mental health issue challenges that episodes that she went through. So I've had the exposure to it. That's about all I know is that cycle from stress to anxiety to depression, and so it's become made me very aware of it, right? And so um now I apologize. I've lost my thought of where I was going with that, but what was the question again? I did have a
What
point.
made you crazy? Yeah, I'm getting older. I'm 46, but I'm like, what did I say? I've been calling mine squirrel moments. So no, we were just talking about what made you decide to write the book.
Yeah, that's
And
what
you
it
said
was.
people coming up to you and saying, I wish
Yeah,
I could do what you did.
yeah. You see, that's the thing. I get so passionate when I start talking about people living their best lives, right? And that's,
Yes.
dealing with the mental health thing is part of it. But yeah, people are coming up and saying, "I wish you could do what I do and do what you guys are doing." And it's like you can do anything you want in life.
Yeah.
You need to have a clear vision of what you want. And that's the first challenge that people have is you ask a person, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the your newfound freedom? Because really money is freedom, right? And you
Mhm.
ask them what they would do with that. And most people they point to you know, superficial things. They buy a new car or they pay off their mortgage or, sometimes they'll go as far as say they take a trip, but then you ask, okay, where would your trip be? Tell me about it. And they can't fill in the picture. So the first thing is daring to dream, figure out what you dream of in life. I was on that plane looking down at the sailboats below me. That's when I started to fill in my picture. I wanted to get back to living by the sea, like I said I was going to do when I was a teen, right? So that's the
Yeah.
first thing is I wanted to write about, okay, so what's your first step in living your own dream? It's defining the dream. Then
Yeah.
the next step is, okay, so how do you put a plan together, right? I talk a lot about that in the book is what does your plan have to look like? What does it include? And then the next thing is okay, so what obstacles are you going to encounter, right? Well, you've got conditioned beliefs. We're all conditioned to believe that we have to live a safe life. We have to go to school, get a job, work 9 to 5 to 65, and then hope that we're gonna get at least a few good years of retirement before we're too old to do something like going sailing or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So you've gotta get past that conditioned belief. You've gotta allow yourself to say it's okay to be selfish, if you will, right? So that I talk about the three pillars of a balanced life. The three pillars are your self pillar, your family and community pillar, and your career pillar. And the problem
Mhm.
is that most of us think that our career pillar is the foundation, right? If you don't serve your career pillar with everything you got, then how can you look after your family and yourself? I call that out. I say that that's completely backwards. If you don't look after your self pillar first,
Yeah.
how can you show up for your family and for your career, right? So that's
Yeah.
getting back to the mental health piece. You got to do everything you can to make sure you build a healthy self because your healthy self is the foundation for everything else. And so why did I write the book? I wanted to make sure people start having these discussions, you know, when my first wife, when she went through she had a miscarriage, and then she went through into a spiral that led her into very traumatic uh, mental health situation. And we're still friends, and so and she's more than happy with me talking openly about it because that's what we did. We talked openly about it. When friends were saying, "Why is she in the hospital?" We talked openly about why she was in the hospital, and
Yeah.
that enabled people to have an open and healthy conversation with her. There wasn't this whispering going on about what's going on. It was open and it was healthy for her, right? And so that's the thing I wanted to do is I wanted to write a book that not only just talks about that, but talks about everything that prevents us from living our best life, right?
That is good. That is really good because it's like for me, it's like I it's just in my brain a vision board. And I bought this, it was like a venture bank at Walmart. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to start. I know I've never been to Colorado. I want to go there. I want to go to Utah. I want to go to New Mexico. I want to go back to Virginia, but I want to bring my camera because that portion of me doing pictures that made me happy and joyous. And I've taught both of my kids also how to shoot on the camera. So these are like fun little journeys, that, and I started yesterday and it wasn't that long of a drive, but my son likes fishing now. And my friend, she's up by the border by Oklahoma.
Mhm.
But we were at Lake Texoma yesterday and it was beautiful. My son tried to fish. Unfortunately, it was the middle of the day. So, of course, we caught nothing.
Mm.
So, but it was so relaxing, so peaceful to be in a different place. And it got me thinking, I really need to accomplish this. So I told my son, I go for something, it's either Galveston, but I've never taken him. Well, I take that back. I think I did take them once, but it's been many years. In Oklahoma, they have these cabins, and I remember getting one with a pond right outside. And I was like, I need that one because I want my son to be able to go out there and just fish, whenever he wants to. I may not like it, but I was like, for the weekend, I just want to cook at the cabin, have my coffee out on the porch. He can go fish morning, evening, do what he wants to, and it'd be beautiful fall weather. So, but as long as you have that vision and like your book says, getting into the right frame of mind, basically, and achieving those goals. We have one life to live, right? So
Mhm.
we need to make the most of it. So, but being caught in the job, and I don't like to say I caught, but really working 9 to 5, and we're doing this as a routine and hoping for retirement. But like, for me, my health. issues that I go through, I don't think I have a really long life, and that's just what I feel. So, I feel like in my world, I wanna do things just a little bit faster, but I also wanna make sure I'm happy before whenever my time is, because I don't see a life to 80 or 90, I just don't. So, yeah, I'm trying to put, like, a speedway and enjoy my time, even though I have to work still just to get to those places. But running my own company too has made me see things in a different light. I'm my own boss. I'm running the show for my photography. It's basically, down to the point. I take pride in that and having that freedom. And I love how you said freedom because that's what it is. You can breathe easier. It's on your own time, you make those decisions. But, so the book, how long, did it take you to write that book?
I started tinkering around with the book probably about 18 months ago at least. Now,
Okay.
I'm a person I can remember reading up until the point I started writing the book. I can remember reading one book cover to cover wholeheartedly in my life, and it was a book called Sale of Two Idiots, and it was a book that inspired me to go sailing, right? And so that
Yeah.
I put that in context that for me, you know, it's it was a really real struggle for me to stay committed to that. I'm a big picture guy, and when it gets down to the details of writing a book, it was challenging. So yeah, so it took me that long, but I had a teacher in college that she completely rewired me. I mention her in the book, I
Oh, yeah.
believe in the acknowledgments, Lynn Wollstonecraft, and I used to be this flowery guy that used to write thousands of words to say one sentence, and she rewired me to get to the point, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what really got me through it is that mindset. It kept she passed away from cancer a number of years ago. May she rest in peace. But I remember her voice was almost like ringing in my head all the time, saying, "Okay, get to the point, stay focused." And so
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
got through it.
definitely. Yep. Getting all those words out, but condensed. I had a discussion about that with a friend a couple days ago. It's like shorten it up, make it sweet.
Yeah,
There's sometimes even on my show, we'll just go in tangents and talk and talk and talk and talk, you know?
yeah.
So, but definitely. I know for my listeners today, I do have his book. You can purchase that through the store of www.keephopealive.com podcast, keephopealivepodcast.com. But definitely. Now, where also can they find your book?
So right now I've got it on Amazon in all markets, Canadian market, US market, and I believe worldwide. It's also on Barnes and Noble, and
Okay.
it released on August 15th, so I'm still ramping up other distributors and kind of becoming acquainted with them, but I know that those are definitely good avenues at the moment anyways.
Okay, perfect. Now, also, as far as website, what social media stuff can they find you on?
So I do business consulting. So there's a page on my business consulting page that's dedicated just to the book Without a Compass. The website is Shawn Hamill Consulting.com, and you'll
Mhm.
find a tab on there that is dedicated to Without a Compass. Social media, I've also got a Facebook page called Without a Compass as well.
Gotcha.
That's those are the key spots right now that I can think of.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Okay, good, 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 good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, people, I always ask this with the book, is it on Audible?
Uh, as far as me doing the narrative, I haven't gotten to that yet. I've been asked to do that, so I'm going to get to it. And yeah, it's just a matter of when. I hope to have that done probably, I'm going to say within the next 3 months, just to be safe. As much as
Yeah.
I'd rather get it done sooner than that, I'll give myself that 3 month cushion anyways.
That's cool. That's cool because I know with books, I'm just more of the audible person. I always put my AirPods in and I'm like, I'm going to listen to this book tonight before I fall asleep, you know? So I was like, I went from books, holding the book, reading it, and I'm in love with it. So I love getting the books in the mail and everything. But when it's audible, it's just so much I don't know. It seems funner, but everybody's different, you know? You either like holding the book or listening to the book. So I'm glad they're both ways and stuff. So now are you gonna be writing any more books?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is that getting through this, it seemed like such a mountain for me at first, and it's kind of funny. I said the same thing when we took our first trip when we went sailing. I would wake up in a cold sweat at nights thinking, "What am I doing? How am I going to do this?" and so on. And then the second
Yep.
time when we RV'd through Mexico, it was like no big deal. Now that I'm done the book and I've seen what's involved, now it doesn't seem like such a big deal to write the next book, but if I do, it'll be something to continue, to, I guess I need to wait and see, get feedback from the community as to what questions are unanswered and take that as my direction on where to go from here.
See, that's a good thing. So, I mean, I'm learning so many new things through my podcast about people and their journeys and everything. And it's always got me thinking, like, okay, like for you, know after this podcast, I'm going to be like, I need to travel. Like, I need to start booking things and making a little map and tell my son, "Hey, we're doing this and this." And I just became a grandma too. So I got to figure
So,
that one out. But I would love to have all my kids together, like to go glamping. Yeah, camping, glamping.
yeah.
So,
And you know what? That to me, what the big point to think about is we're all going to take our last breath one day. Not to get morbid or anything, but it's going to happen to us. And provided that we have the moment to think about that, ask yourself this: Do you want to be do you want to take that last breath with a huge bank account? You know, you traded your time for the money that padded your bank account. Or is it going to be more important to you when you're taking that last breath to have a huge memory bank, right?
yeah.
I gave up a good career and went into this this adventure so that we would have all the memories, right? And it's like you
Yeah.
said, I too feel like I'm not going to live to 80 or 90, and so I thought I want to make sure I get the memory bank filled.
I feel like you're gonna go on another boat ride and then just write a book. That's what I was, like, thinking because you said seeing your wife glow with the dolphins. You probably wanna see that again, and
Yeah,
maybe she's it sounds like she's very nice and very spiritual too, and likes, the open water, and she feels so good, seeing the dolphins and yeah, just that's very peaceful, very
yeah. Well, that's
calm
what's in.
and that's a word. Calm and
Yeah,
collective.
yeah. She's a certified yoga instructor now, so we actually were nearly retired, and yeah, we live in a trailer up at the lake in the summertime. We
Mhm.
have properties, but we choose to just stay at the trailer instead, and we're buying a boat this winter. We're shopping now, and so
Yeah.
we live in Canada, so it's going to get cold here soon. So we have to get this figured out in the next month or so. We got to get a boat that we're going to go sailing on again this winter, and that's going to be our life going forward.
Oh.
Is living by the lake in the summer and living on the ocean or near the ocean on the boat in the wintertime. And Leanne's going to teach yoga wherever anybody will put up with her, and that's our life now. So
Well, that's fun. You see, you got it's all planned out, it's ready to go and everything. So I need to be more like that. I love that my 12-year-old son is like that. He's like, I'm going to be a pro football player. And then when I retire, I actually want to be a children's minister at a church. And I was like, thinking, like, he told me this when he was 11. I was like, okay, because I knew at age 14 I wanted to be a certified wedding planner, and it's probably come from playing Barbie so much, you know, but I was like, "Okay." But I accomplished those goals, and I became a certified planner, and then I taught myself photography and been at it for almost 25 years. So it's just one of those things, and here I am. I mean, I did start another company where I wanted to interview people, but we didn't have podcasts many years ago, and just to have the videographer out there doing a commercial, it was getting pricey, very expensive, and I had to give up on that dream. I was like, "There is nobody who wants to pay this price." And then I start teaching and doing networking events through meetup.com, and somebody one day said, "Well, why don't you have a podcast on this?" I go, "A what?" And I was like and then, the one gift I learned in life is people will just come up. I don't know them. They tell me their life story, and I just become a better listener. And, it's kind of like a big hello, Nadine, it's right here. Let's do this. And it was when my friend passed. I mean, we were always talking about wanting to be heard by our family, our friends, the guys we were dating, doctors. Then it was here it is. It's born and I'm happy about it. I feel like, when I go to church on Sundays, I'm like, I got this. This feels good. I'm doing the right thing for the right reasons. But here it is. And it's so funny. Well, it's not funny to the people who want to be a guest. They're like, well, you're all booked up. And I'm like, in my head, I know, and they're coming fast. And I rely on Calendly to keep everything, and it was like, "Well, it's blocking me," and I go in, I go, "I don't know why it's blocking, like, I can't figure it out." It says it's open for everybody to choose a date all into next year. But it's interesting. I feel like doing this has made me a much better person, and whatever health challenges I have to go through, people, the guests and people hearing the message coming out of this podcast, it keeps me going too. So I'm very happy and blessed to have that. But definitely, you are very inspiring, very creative, very outgoing and adventurous. And I love how you took your whole family out too to enjoy the world and teach them that not everything is going to be based just on a solo career to make a living. You were like teaching them, we got this and we can do this. And this is the initiative you take to accomplish your dreams. So, what a great message. That was amazing. Now, did I cover everything with you? I know that I read, I got my mommy glasses on. Um, I want to know really quick, you purchased an old wooden jungle property in Honduras.
We did. Yeah, that was adventure number 3 is we decided we needed kind of settle down and start thinking about making some money again to rebuild the bank account. And so we actually had 2 people
Hmm.
within a week of each other suggest that we go to Roatan, and one recommended a bar that was for sale in Roatan, and then other people completely unconnected to the first couple said that there was a boat for sale, a catamaran for sale that was used for charters. And so we said, okay, well, the universe seems to be talking to us about Roatan, so let's go to Roatan. It was actually
Yeah.
this time of year, and the memories are coming up on Facebook over the last couple of days. And we went down and we saw this old wooden building sitting up on a hill overlooking the Caribbean Sea, and
Wow.
it was a dilapidated building. It was in rough shape. It was 3 stories. So we bought it and we took possession of it on Halloween in
Uh huh.
2016. Me and my son went down to take possession, and my son turned to me and said, "Dad, what did you do?" And it was rough, and we gutted it. We said that we were going to have it open for Christmas, and the locals all laughed at us and said, "You don't understand Roatan time, right?" And we said, "We'll figure it out." And sure enough, we welcomed our first guests on December 24th, 2016. And it wasn't without speed bumps, but we worked them all out, and we own the property until 2022. We welcome guests from I think almost 40 countries around the world,
Oh my
and
goodness. That's
that's
amazing.
it was so amazing to meet that many cultures. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
Man, look at you. Oh man, that is great. That is wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on our show. And remember, guys, I get his book. You, you're just amazing. The words are just not coming out. So I'm excited, like, for your whole journey and everything, and bringing so much light into the world is amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on.
I have to tip my cap back to you. This is the first podcast I've done, and I couldn't have done it with a more incredible person. This has been an awesome
Oh,
experience for me. So thank you very much
yeah.
for having me.
When you see my smile, it's like, oh, I was like, it's coming up. So well, thank you. I'm all blushy now. So, but remember, guys, if you have any questions, we have a number that you can call and place your questions at 833-780-HOPE, which I think is 4673, and leave a message there. Or you can go on the website and they have a voicemail and you can leave a message there also. And I promise to give it to Shawn, and we can come back and revisit if there's any questions. So, I also want to thank all the other sponsors too that make Keep Hope Alive afloat. So, as we mentioned before, we had Life on Record, which was your interactive guest book that you can use for any event where the guests can leave a message and then it gets burned on a record or a keepsake speaker. So go and visit them. We got that's on all country. Go visit them. Then we got snap bands at www.snapbands.com. This beautiful piece of jewelry has the mantra words, the elastic band with a gentle pull that can fight the depression, anxiety, OCD, even PTSD. And the mantra words help this. I've had mine on for a year and I love it, guys. You got to check them out. Once again, that is www.snapbands.com. Then we have Ogden Ventures at www.marcusogden.com. He is a former football player. He is a public speaker and author as well and has his own podcast. You can gather so much cool information from him too. So go visit him. Our next one is Bridal Shows Inc. Miss Naomi. She's been doing this for so many years and she puts out these bridal shows, I think like 5 times out of the year. You can always go on to the website and see what she has to offer. But go meet your photographers, your caterers, your videographers, your fashion designers, and get that all planned out. Our next one is Bryce Harney at www.brycemagic.com. He, of course, is a magician and a mind mentalist reader, which is really cool. He does corporate events and church events and travels. You've probably seen him on TV, but I tell everybody go to YouTube, type in Bryce Harney or go to his website, and it has a couple things that you can see him doing his show, and it's just amazing. Our next one is Miles and Smiles Events.com. It's Deborah Rose. She, I love her to death. She's a handwriting analysis and lipstick reader. So you can book her for any events. She is 100% accurate. I mean, I'm a stubborn person, but she got me. I brought her to like a couple open houses to work with us too. And she was amazing. I've seen her at events and she is still amazing. She's getting everybody. And I just love watching the people go, how'd you know that about me? And I rather just sit with her the whole event than do the event. So that tells you and speaks volumes. Our last one is richmondpunch.net. Richmond graduated from the Juilliards and he is a violinist for way over 30 years. Not talking about age, we are getting older, Richmond. But Definitely. He's played in front of 1,000,000 people before. He's been on, I think, 2 different Lifetime movie. He had a spot to do playing the violin, and right now he's out on tour, making the world happy with his music. So check out his information. Now just remember, wherever you find your podcast, you'll be able to find Keep Hope Alive. If you would like to become a guest speaker, send us an email. You can find us on the social media. Of course, I like TikTok now, but TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be. So, but I once again want to thank you for coming on to the show. You've been a joy. And until next time, guys, we will see you. Bye, guys. Love and light. Bye bye.